Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another weekly RigER webinar. But first thing first, so my name is Nikolai, and I'm a VP of Marketing Sales at RigER, and I'm going to be the host of today's webinar. I'm going to be facilitating some of the questions that may arise throughout. There will be a few introductory slides before we get into the meat while people are logging in and grabbing a sandwich, I guess, or a cup of coffee in the afternoon. In the meantime, I'll be talking a little bit about what we are, how we can what RigER is, and how you can connect with our team when you need to be sure that you get an answer to a question of yours on any subject related to RigER, or for that matter, not. So use any of the social media channels. We're here omnipresent. Follow, tweet, retweet, share, or just reach out to us through any other means that are presented on this slide. So again, I think we've got the biggest quorum now for today's webinar, so I think we can move forward to the subject matter of today's webinar. And the agenda and the speakers for today's session are presented on this slide. So we're going to be hearing from Gleb Kovitz, VP of Operations, and Michael Maltsev, CEO and Head of the Product here at RigER. And the agenda includes several items you can see. So we're going to be looking at the accounting integration setup, the QuickBooks requirements, the data migration process, how to do the settings, and how to make sure that it works. Simple integration, a little more advanced integration, we'll talk about both. We'll also touch on purchasing, rental, sales, and payroll. So that's an important part that is not to miss, and how to export data from RigER. Again, to those of you who are new to the RigER ecosystem and RigER as a system in general, so I'll tell a couple of words about who we are, where we come from, and what we're focusing on. So RigER is a flagship product of Belka Corporation, and our core values are the paperless enterprise, the custom solutions, and integration. So it's important for us that we communicate as clearly as possible that our mission here is to help the oilfield rentals and services businesses to really turn their paper-based operations into the paperless processes. And we also customize software when needed to the specific needs of a company. And integrations is the one that we're going to be touching on today, is that we integrate with other systems when and if it's required by our clients. So the RigER product family is made of several kind of line items that you can see. So don't bother reading that much of the text. I will explain it in a bit. So RigER is basically a cloud, is made of the cloud system. So we are hosting the database, the configured for the client's database in the cloud environment, and it supports different and full database sort of access and activities in it. But cloud is not the only thing that we offer. So along with the cloud, we offer a series of mobile applications that connect to your database in the cloud. So basically, that's how you link the people in the office and people in the field and enable information transfer in a paperless format from one person, however they may be in the field, to the person in the office. So that's what makes the system uniquely beneficial to most of the businesses that are relying on the field services. So some of the RigER applications include a series of standard applications for the surface equipment rentals and the services, and a standalone application of RigER is actually RigER downhole tools application. So that's a very technical solution that's been developed for a sub-industry in the oilfield rentals, a growing and a complex one, but basically you can manage any process and any rental and service business using RigER. Yeah, so we just wanted to bring up the slide that just this past month, we opened a new office in Calgary. So those of you who are in Calgary, we welcome you in our new office, our new home here. And we'd be more than happy to see and treat you tea or real coffee and have a conversation with you about how we can help you and your business setting up RigER for your operations. Or if you're already a client, pop in and actually we'll be happy to talk to you in person anytime and every time. So our operations stretch throughout North America, as you can see on the map. So we both cover Canada and the United States. Although we originate from Canada, we have servers and most of the clients now in the United States, where a lot of companies are using RigER and taking the full benefit of it. Our support desk also now is global and covers the European as well as the North American market. And we have software development offices in the Eastern Europe. as well as in Canada too. So some of our clients are presented on this slide. Again, it is more valuable to those of you who are new to RigER. So and the kinds of equipment that these companies are managing using RigER are presented on the right-hand side. So as I mentioned a little earlier, you can manage pretty much anything in RigER, from the surface equipment of different kinds and complexity to the downhole tools. And that's just notwithstanding the services that also are quite often are part and parcel of the rental business. So on that note, I wanted to pass the microphone to Michael, who's going to dive into the accounting integration details, starting with purchases, rentals, sales, and payroll.
Hello everyone and welcome to RigER webinars. Today we will talk about the accounting integration and let's move forward. So when we talk about the integration of the two pieces of the software, we need to understand the purpose and how the data will flow, how often they will do that, and the method which we'll use for that. And most popular method today is API, Application Programming Interface, which give an opportunity to both pieces of the software to communicate to each other and understand what we can send and how the one source of data from one system will show in another system. So this is a normal way how we can connect to a piece of the software. So if we talk about the oil field data flow and what information usually we see the clients requested to integrate with RigER, so we see that incoming information from other system goes to RigER from CRMs, kind of sales info, or GPS and telemetry from the equipment. But the RigER becomes a source for accounting, payroll, and e-invoicing information to send invoices, reports, equipment info, oilfield service data, and payroll data. So this is a kind of a challenge of what we have and what we need to understand because different clients use different pieces of the software, different CRM systems, different accounting systems, and in that that raises lots of different options which we have right now in RigER. So when we talk about the entire digital platform, so the database, RigER database, located in the cloud and connected with different type of data, mobile, web, email, and the integration is a part of it. So we have a lot of communication channels between different platforms, different devices, and again, it required to build the ecosystem which will communicate of different pieces of the software. So why people usually choose to integrate software? Because first of all, this is eliminate the manual entry. For example, when we talk about the invoice generation in RigER and then integrate with Quickbooks and further to the e-invoicing systems like OpenInvoice and Cortex. So in this case, we just to speed up and streamline the process, eliminate all the double entries and eliminate any discrepancies and mistyping, clicking different errors. So and definitely this increase the quality of data which transferring from one system to another. And another big thing is the ability to easy scale your business, so move everything faster and can communicate different departments to the one centralized accounting solution. The integration setup. First of all, we need to understand what kind of integration we will build and how we will connect the data. After that, we need to do a mapping. So we need to connect items and accounts items by item, grouping items, department classes, etc. Then after that, we build a bridge and start testing the information. Usually what we can do, we can set up a test environment in RigER and test environment, for example, for the QuickBooks, and run all those tests there, and that gives us understanding how the information will move from one software to another. So the in this example, what we do usually, we build a copy of the existing database, generate the invoices, start sending this to the copy of the QuickBooks. So it's the best way how we can test that everything works smoothly. And after that test runs, we do the daily, weekly, monthly, depending on the frequency, the data export. So why we choose a topic of today's QuickBooks? Because based on our research of the like or the software which most of the clients use, are again our RigER clients, and vast majority of the clients use QuickBooks, desktop or online, depending on the configuration. Some of the clients use Microsoft Dynamics, some of the clients use Sage, and we have few clients which use other software and integrate it through the Excel spreadsheet. So we export everything to Excel, and they import data to sometimes QuickBooks, sometimes SAP, sometimes other accounting systems. So the Excel export is a universal language to do that. But again, the export to Excel is usually a manual thing. So Microsoft Dynamics is more advanced and connected with the um, um, like online on the regular frequency of 2 or 3 minutes. So the integration session runs automatically. And today we will talk about QuickBooks Desktop more precisely, and a little bit a couple of words about QuickBooks Online. So the entire concept of the data storage, like what we have in RigER and what we have in QuickBooks. So RigER is focusing on the operation side of the business, and in this case, we have lots of different information here, like rental units, unit numbers, quantities, days, all the information about the equipment, discounts, location, EFE, PO, all the information which we need and required for the invoicing. In QuickBooks, we do the mostly focusing on the accounting operations. So we do purchase, sales, also rentals and services. So more aggregating information there. And another purpose why we have a more detailed information in RigER, because for example, when we start talking about the integration of classes or dimensions, how we call them, so we have 10 plus dimensions in RigER, and in QuickBooks we faced one class, or another point will be class and subclass. What we can see. So sometimes it's a very challenging to better understand how we can connect and what we will connect to the classes. So let's talk about data migration and what we actually transfer from RigER to QuickBooks. So first of all, and initially, we talk about purchase invoices, and the purchase invoices in RigER become a bill in a QuickBooks. And rental invoices in RigER and sales invoices in RigER become invoice in QuickBooks. So we do not transfer a PO from purchase invoices from purchase orders from RigER, so they will stay in RigER, and the only purchases which we send to QuickBooks will be a purchase invoice or final purchase document. So, and when we talk about the entire information which we will send, so This is an example of mapping of the data. So date, number and date of the document will be shown as a date and number of the document. In QuickBooks, vendor and address, same thing. So we synchronized a vendors list in RigER and vendor list in QuickBooks. And this is like a the discrepancy which can exist in a different software. So, for example, in RigER we called it total amount for the document. In QuickBooks, it will be amount due. So due date and bill due, that's the difference. And when we talk about line of the tab of the document, so in this case we will have a subtotal by items amount, and in the purchase bill in QuickBooks it will be the inventory asset and the amount, so which will connect it this expense and account. So we will not connect items in RigER with accounts in QuickBooks. We connect items in RigER and accounts and items in QuickBooks, which will connect it with the accounts. So there is like a little bit difference of it here. So the same thing, we have a rental invoice and invoice in QuickBooks. So rental invoice in RigER, we connect items in RigER and items in QuickBooks. So we usually call them billable items. So for a very simple integration, we send only subtotal rental fee, subtotal service fee, subtotal additional fee, and to the particular item in QuickBooks. So it was popular method 2 or 3 years ago. Right now, we use more advanced settings, and Gleb will show that in a second. And the sales invoice, pretty much the same thing. So we have a sales invoice as a separate document in RigER, and we have invoice, a similar document in QuickBooks. Sometimes we do a push button integration in a QuickBooks. Say, for example, when we build a new company in a new client in RigER, we can push this client to QuickBooks. So this button is an optional thing, and this is how we can set up this in RigER. So let's talk about settings, and I will pass the mic to Gleb Kobets, VP of Operations, and he will explain that in step-by-step process.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. So my name is Gleb. I'm VP of Operations in RigER, and let me tell you about the step-by-step settings process when we implement RigER and connect it to QuickBooks system. So how it should be set up. So first of all, we start with the general settings of the integration. When we install a special connection file between two systems, it's called libraries. So it's just a simple plugin that installs on your computer, and that plugin will connect both systems between together. Next step, you have to locate your company file in company QuickBooks file. So again, RigER software will understand that we need to send information in a particular file. Sometimes when we integrate RigER to a QuickBooks system of a new client, we can connect to a temporary or some kind of test environment in QuickBooks. So you can create a copy of your actual company file in QuickBooks, and we will test the integration first on this test file, and then we just reconnect RigER to another file, and the information will flow to it. The third step on that settings window is just to select if you want to move the information about the classes, like class analytics from RigER to QuickBooks. You're able to set up classes mapping, and again, information will be aggregated on the class level. And the final step here is just to connect revenue items in RigER with the revenue items in QuickBooks, as Michael already said. And we do the mapping table for this kind of connection, upload it to the system, and that's it. Now, the next step on the integration procedure is to connect taxes. In order to do that, we need to go to tax schedules in RigER in the info menu and select every single tax schedule that we have set up previously, and specify on the bottom of the tax schedule screen, specify to what kind of sales tax item we connect RigER tax schedules. And there are two options right now. So the first is to connect RigER taxes to general taxation schemes in QuickBooks. Usually it's just a two type of taxes, like taxable or non-taxable, so it applies on the document level. And the other option, which is the new development in RigER, so we can even send the tax rates from RigER to the QuickBooks tax schemes as well. Because there might be a situation when you have, especially in the United States, you can have multiple tax rates for one customer. And when you build this kind of schedule in QuickBooks system, so you specify multiple taxes for one client, and the same we can do in RigER. So in this way we connect tax schedules between two systems. Now let's take a look at the simple version of integration of RigER and QuickBooks. It's when you just create a new items for bill, enter new items for bill in QuickBooks, and the relative items in RigER will match these items in QuickBooks. So for materials, it's a materials type of rental item, and so on. So goods, services, and rental units are matching pretty much closely. Now, when we enter new items for invoice, we call it rental fee. So, and the rental fee in the RigER will be accumulated on the rental invoice level. So we have a total rental fee in RigER invoice. We can have total service fee and total additional fee. So if you're using the RigER now, you know that there are separate tabs on the RigER invoice, and we can transfer both or all of these fees into QuickBooks as well. Now let's talk about the mapping process. Here's some steps in this process, and let me cover this in details. So first of all, when you set up integration, you need to map the items, and we go to the import data section in the settings of the software. We select in the type drop-down menu, we select revenue items, and we need to download the template in the Excel format that you will work on in the next step. Also, you need to build an integration report that will just bring up the whole list of your rental items, services, materials, goods, and also some consumables. So that will populate just the whole list of revenue items in RigER system. So what you have to do, you just need to copy this list and paste it to the Excel spreadsheet that we have downloaded previously. Next step, in the Excel spreadsheet, we just put in the second column, we put the item name field from QuickBooks. So as we previously spoke about that, we connect revenue items with revenue in RigER with revenue items in QuickBooks. We don't need any information about the account that is tied to this number or item name. So we just copy the item name field and enter it in the Excel spreadsheet. Once the Excel spreadsheet is complete, we go back to settings and again select type revenue items. We choose a file meaning Excel spreadsheet that we have already filled in, and we check all the data that will pop up on the screen. And then the final step is just to click import, and this mapping table will be uploaded to RigER system, and all these QuickBooks items will be recorded in the appropriate revenue items in RigER. When you want to connect classes between two systems, you have a few options. So depending on the classes set up in your QuickBooks, you have an option to select in RigER between departments, lines of business, sales regions or areas, and divisions. As you may already know, the departments are those that are our internal storages or shops or yards or warehouse, so meaning where we store our equipment. Line of business is a little bit different dimension because it usually represents the type of activities in the company. So what company's directions are, like the company can do flowback services, or it also can do pumping services, waste management or completion, water transfer. So it can be anything. It depends on your internal organization, how you define what kind of services you provide, or type of different rental equipment you provide, and you can separate that by using line of business. Sales region or area, again, you can analyze your revenue by territorial areas. For example, in the United States, it's pretty common that companies just divide their operations by different areas like Permian, Mid-Con, Rockies, South Texas, West Texas, etc. So again, it's flexible in RigER to set up any sales regions or areas and transfer and aggregate revenue information on that level. And the final option is divisions. So first, three first items, it's our internal company like directions or separations, but division usually is used to distinct our clients types of operations. For example, division can be oil and gas, it can be construction or transportation. So it's mainly used in the pricing module when you can set up different prices depending on the client's division. So if you provide an equipment for the operations in the oil and gas industry, it can be one price. But if the same company does the same thing, but they operate it in the construction area, you can set different prices. And based on that setting, you can again transfer revenue to the division classes in QuickBooks if they're set up in this way. So once we set up classes, we just open the appropriate item in RigER, either it's department, sales area, division, or line of business, and we fill in the class field, meaning specifying the class name in QuickBooks system. After everything is complete, you just click again on the integration report. You check how the systems have been mapped, and you will see these mapping connections, and that will tell you that everything is ready to go, and actually you are ready to send your invoices from RigER to QuickBooks.
We come to the Q&A session, and let's see if we have any questions. Nikolai, do you have any?
Yes, I do. Well, not mine questions, but first, we have a few questions from our audience, and I wanted to mention again to those of you who haven't been here before and would like to ask a question, there's a Q&A button right there at the bottom of the screen. If you're using a Windows machine, just kind of roll your mouse all over the down, and then you will be able to click the Q&A and actually submit questions. And this is the kind of questions that we just received after the first part of our presentation. So the question comes from Jill. So the question is, how often can I send invoices from RigER to QuickBooks?
Good question. Actually, it really depends on your requirements. As soon as you need it, you can do it like every day or twice a day or every week, depending on how often. Like from practical standpoint, usually it happens every day or maybe every second day. so the accountant can see the invoices in QuickBooks.
Yeah, and from the technical standpoint, the system allows you to transfer information upon your request. So if you'd like to transfer invoices, you just you pull up the list of the invoices that you have generated and you just send them. So I'll show you that later, how you can transfer this information. But again, short answer, it semi-manual process. So you select and you click export and the system exports the information.
Mm-hmm. So it's user triggered. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you guys for answering that. Same question, or it's not the same person, different question. So why there's different in the field names when you set up an integration between RigER and QuickBooks? I believe it just refers to the point that there are differences in how we name items or fields in RigER and the QuickBooks.
This happened because different people use a different approach to design the software, and that is why the field names could be different. Moreover, you couldn't please everyone because like a different businesses run in a different way in different industries, different regions. That is why they use a different names for pretty much similar fields.
Okay. One more question now. This time it's from Laura. So the question is that who can send invoices to QuickBooks from RigER?
It depends on the settings of a particular user. So if we assign this function and a particular role of the account receivable, so to a person, so he or she will be able to send invoices, but it's definitely not every person in the company who can send invoices. And basically, even if the person has this function, but they haven't set up RigER and connection on the computer that they are using or she's using, so the information will not flow. So we set up a connection between two softwares on a particular workstation.
Yes, and in the latest version of RigER, RigER 7.0, Oklahoma City, we define a specific function for the invoice integration. So the user can be choosing by the administrator, and that function can be assigned to the particular person. Again, it's first of all, it's a connection with the computer when we talk about QuickBooks Desktop, and a particular person who can do that as a function in RigER.
Okay, good. I think on that note, I don't have any more questions, but to those of you, again, who are with us today, there will be another chance to ask a few questions, so jot them down or submit them right away, and we'll be able to answer them at the end of the second part of the presentation.
All right, good. So let's move on, and the next topic that we need to discuss is the actual export of data from RigER to QuickBooks. And that's one of the most exciting part of the whole process, because everything that we have discussed previously was a setup part of it. So we've set up systems and now we operate smoothly every day. We generate invoices and now we need to send them to QuickBooks. So what we do in this case, in the Oilfield Rentals menu, you have an option to select Export Data tool. Once you open that Export Data tool, you now can filter your list with invoices generated by different statuses. For example, if you want to transfer only invoices with emailed status, so you will be able to filter the list out with this status and send them to QuickBooks. Also, you select the period for which you'd like to see invoices to be transferred. And also you can filter by RSA, client, and location. And after you filter the list, you can also select a particular line on that list. So meaning that you can select multiple invoices or just select all of them. And you hit the export button. Once the connection is set up properly, the invoice will flow, the information actually from RigER will flow to the QuickBooks system. And in your QuickBooks software, you'll see you can locate the newly generated invoice by the invoice number or by the client, and everything that supposed to be transferred, meaning the item name, amount, taxes, client address, and even sometimes client location will be transferred to the QuickBooks invoice. So then you just check all the data that is transferred and you close the deal.
Yeah, one more thing which we need to stress: if the invoice sent to QuickBooks, already sent to QuickBooks, there is a checkbox exported, and the invoice will never appear in the exported files after that. So, and moreover, this invoice in RigER will be locked from editing, because we need to keep the integrity of data which we send and which we have in RigER.
Yeah, and actually this exported control and exported checkmark just, keeps the system consistent in terms of the documents that you have already exported, so you cannot transfer the same invoice twice. If it's marked as exported, then it's locked from being transferred, and we just prevent this kind of occurrence that you can send invoices twice.
And let's talk about the some aspects of the integration setup settings and how our users utilize this option and function. So first of all, we need to talk about when we do the QuickBooks integration when we implement RigER. Usually it's the last step of the integration, because we require a full understanding of the structure of the data. We need to understand that all the data entered in the RigER, and we need to build a mapping table, because if we not map item in RigER with item in QuickBooks, the integration process and the integrations settings, it will be showing the error that we couldn't build a new client, or we couldn't build a new item in QuickBooks, because we have no rights to do that. Another thing that we need to understand that we covered everything, and usually we ask the clients to have a week or two to generate all kind of invoices and all kind of transactions and operations in RigER, and after that we can start the integration process. Because if we will do it in a half, we need to repeat this process again and again and again, because say for example we add another type of invoices or another type of operations. And another point which I'd like to stress here, so the integration definitely simplify our life and make the process smooth and easy. However, it will require a preparation, understanding, and adjusting sometimes the operations in QuickBooks and understanding how those two things can be connected. Because what we face in some organizations, that we see the disconnection between sales, operations, and accounting, and that kind of practice give us like huge issues like with the integration. So it should be the same information in a quote, the same information in the tickets and the operation records, and the same information in the invoice. So we need to understand how the information from rental service agreement, from quote, will migrate to tickets, and after that it will goes to invoices, and at the end it will be sent to the QuickBooks. So in some organizations, because we kind of implement RigER from scratch, so there is no any other system, we need to build and fully understand the whole process. So again, the integration with accounting software make our life easy. However, to do that easy things, you need to be very, very prepared and better understand what's going on and how things should work together. Another thing which I'd like to what we see right now, it's slow process, but there is some trend. So QBO, QuickBooks Online, become more and more popular from our client, and it's a good thing because I'm not discussing the difference between QuickBooks Desktop and Online. I'm talking about two different approaches to two different platforms, and a modern software, which definitely QuickBooks Online, the cloud-based software, give us an opportunity to integrate with the QuickBooks Online in two ways. It means we can build the bridge between two cloud databases, and they can talk to each other simultaneously. We can set up interval of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and if something changed, it will automatically appear in one system or another, which is fantastic tool. If we talk about the QuickBooks Desktop, we have only one way integration. We can only export data from RigER to QuickBooks. For QuickBooks Online, for example, you can have a synchronized list of clients, and if you enter a client in RigER, it will appear in QuickBooks Online. And if you edit this client in QuickBooks Online and change something, for example, accountant at LTD at the end of the official name of the client, then everything will transfer back to RigER, and it will be rewrite, so resynchronize this thing. So which is very fantastic tool, because you have both system works together and everything is synchronized simultaneously. So this is what we have as the final note about today's topic, and we're ready to second session of questions.
And I have another question from Laura. Thank you, Michael and Gleb, for delivering the presentation. The question is it possible to integrate RigER with other accounting software? I know that we've talked about the QuickBooks, but here's a question about other software.
Yes, definitely, and we had that experience in the past. So the QuickBooks definitely become a majority of the accounting software from our client requests, but sometimes we receive requests from a specific software, accounting software, which needs to be integrated. It should be usually it's not a problem for vast majority of modern software. Sometimes we face it with the closed systems, which not allowed you to integrate with anything. But if the software can export data to Excel or import data from Excel, it should not be a problem. We have a universal export data to Excel spreadsheets, and you can use this somehow like a temporary solution. And if it's we will see if it's a good potential that other clients will utilize that approach or that software. So we can definitely build a specific software for software integration for that solution.
Okay, thank you. Another call, I guess, to all the participants to ask any other questions. And here we go, a question again from Jill. So what do you see the biggest issue with integrations when people are trying to do it but receive an error? I believe that Jill may have had an experience.
Yeah, sometimes when you're trying to export information from RigER to QuickBooks or another accounting system, you may get an error that will tell you that this information can be transferred. And that usually happens because if you have performed some changes in your accounting system, then these changes can also be performed in RigER system, meaning that the mapping connections can be broken in this way. For example, if you rename an item, revenue item in QuickBooks, you have to check the mapping name in RigER system. Also, it can happen if you have entered a new rental item in RigER, but you don't have such a rental item in QuickBooks system. Again, the system will just not know how to transfer information to what item in the QuickBooks system we need to transfer the revenue details. So usually the most number of issues connected with this kind of details. So please, first of all, check all your connections. And again, if you have these kind of problems, we usually suggest just to send a quick email or ticket to our support desk, and our support technician will be able to resolve this issue pretty quickly. And you'll be provided with a detailed instructions how to fix the issue on your side. So next time when you face the same issue, you'll be able to resolve it on your own.
Perfect. Thank you. So mapping is key.
Oh,
I guess that's a
yeah,
main question.
and I'd like to add one more thing about the integration and about the expectation of the integration. So it's not a magic. It's a specific, a very detailed and very detail-oriented settings in both systems, and it will require a lot of attention and understanding how two systems works together. So again, the expectation could be like, yeah, can you do this like in this and this and this? Sometimes there could be some limitations of the QuickBooks, or sometimes it could be like there is no data in RigER, which you'd like to see in a QuickBooks. So yeah, it's not a magic. It's just a hard job, which give us a good opportunity to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And I believe that maybe the final question actually that comes from Miriam. So does this mapping apply to both QuickBooks Online, or mapping issue applies, potential mapping issue applies to both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So there is a difference between settings in QuickBooks Online and Desktop. However, the general approach is the same.
Okay. So I hope that helps. Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions again. It's been a pleasure to present you this topic, and indeed, a nice slide. So today is the last before the Christmas webinar, so we're just closing the season. The new season is coming early January, I believe, so there won't be any webinar next week, but we'll be prepping for the next year, and we're looking forward to seeing all of you and more in the coming year with more interesting content from us to all of you who are using or thinking of using or planning of using RigER in your rentals and services operations in the world.
Yeah, we wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Almost saying Michael. So thank you again, everyone. It's been a pleasure. Have a great end of the year and the great beginning of the next one.
Yeah. See you next year. It will be fantastic year, no doubt.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.